One, two, three. Welcome everybody today to Mom and Dad Talks, where our favorite two people are Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad, how are you doing?
Doing fine, doing fine.
Oh man, and we got a very special guest. We have a famous comedian, Demond M. Cherry.
I guess you just made me. I guess you just made me famous. Hi, Mom and Dad. How y'all doing?
Well, we have great comedians, especially Christian comedians, to expose them, to let everybody know that you're out there. That you don't want people squirming when you're doing making everybody laugh. They can laugh wholly and laugh good and laugh fun. So we want to thank you for coming on our show. And just to let everybody know, I mean, you're part of an organization, LOLGCA. That's how I met you, because we're doing some stuff with you right now.
Right.
And, I'm happy to be working with you, happy to be a part of this. And you guys work with some very famous comedians outside of yourself, Demond, that come to your conference. So we want to tell people, a little bit exposure about that. But before we get into all that stuff,
Right.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, baby.
Well, like you said, my name is Demond M. Cherry. I am originally from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, but I live in Columbus, Ohio. Graduated from the Kentucky State University. Started doing comedy in 1993 while attending. Well, I guess 1993 was my first junior year.
Okay.
I was in that extended program from 90 to 98. But we did that thing in 98. So, started doing comedy on a dare. But let me take it back even farther than that. Like me as a comedian, I have stories of like hanging out with like Steve Harvey, Cedric Entertainer. But I got an uncle that used to do comedy. He worked out in Vegas, and he got stories of hanging out with the Rat Pack, and he used to tour. He used to tour actually with Florence from the Jeffersons. That's who he used to go out on the road with.
Oh my!
And I told him when I was 5 years old that I was going to be a comedian. He was like, okay, So as I graduated from Kentucky State University, I moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, where he was living. And by this time, he wasn't doing comedy anymore. He's preaching now. So,
amen.
But he was grooming me to, in comedy, go take me through the comedy clubs there in Indianapolis, and that's how I started doing the comedy clubs. But I got into Christian comedy. One Sunday, he said he needed a comedian to do something at his church. Now I'm thinking, man, look, I'm in these clubs, I'm cussing, I'm smoking weed at this time. I got nothing but weed jokes and and everything. So I go in his church just on a fly on a whim and pretty much freestyled. And so for about 10 years, I did both clubs and churches. Yeah. And then I'll say about 12 years ago, I've been doing comedy for almost 30 years. This October will be 30 years. So I say about 12 years ago, I started going 100% clean. And that's pretty much the gist of it, man. I've had the opportunity to work with just about anybody you can name. Hung out with them, kicked it. They stole a couple jokes from me just by a conversation. I'm one of the people that when we just having a conversation, I hear somebody tell a joke of a conversation we had. I'm like, really, dude? But other than that, what I'm saying, I'm just trying to do the work for the Lord and can maintain being funny. But it's a little bit different once you go to Christian route. You ain't just always on stage like you are in those clubs. And those clubs, I was constantly, weekends, doing them Tuesday night, Wednesday night runs for those promoters. And once you take that Christian route, it's, unless you got a booking agency, which I don't. So it's when that phone ring, but I stay busy. Thank God.
Yeah, we're glad you stay busy. I mean, since you brought that up, because I'm going to let my mom and dad ask some questions here in a little bit. Going that clean route, because that had to be something for you to make that decision. Hey, I'm just going to go clean all the way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, talk to me.
I'll put it to you like this. So sometimes I have to go get that club money, but I'm not vulgar. I will play to my crowd.
Yes.
But by the end of that show, you're gonna know that I know Jesus. So, I definitely read my crowd. Then it's like some church shows, you in there I'm going with my church set, and I realized they want to hear something that, what I'm saying, that ain't, it's a little bit edgy, you know what I'm saying? So I kind of label myself as the edgy Christian comedian, because I would take you to the edge. I'm not gonna push you over.
I love it. If
you ever seen one of my sets, you be like, you can tell I used to be a club comic, but you can tell I know my Bible and I know about church.
So before we get into that, you know, you talked about that you were with some famous comedians, right? What was it like working with some of them? You don't have to give out any names, or unless you want to. That like, wow, I didn't know this. What is one thing that you didn't know that you're like, wow, this is what I was surprised of?
If I had to say, a lot of these guys that you see on TV, I ain't trying to be no snitching.
Okay, yeah, we're not snitching. We're not snitching.
But a lot of these famous comedians that you know and see, they got some stuff going on in the background that you don't see. I mean, really some things that they do that you would know. You may think they may do it, they do it. So you know, from being married and having a wife, having a mistress in every city they perform in, it all goes down.
It all goes down. It all goes down. We're not snitching here, folks.
Yeah, I ain't snitching. I ain't saying no names.
We're just making a point because, you know, I remember, you know, my cousin used to play for the University of Michigan. And I remember that we went there and I just saw all these women hanging out after we got out of the locker room.
Right.
And I'm like, this happens every game. So I just imagine being in a comedy, you're just getting bombarded with people that want to do some interesting stuff with you that's not holy.
Well, I mean, I can attest to that because even, you know, there's been times, I'll put it to you like this, if you're a funny comedian, some things can happen. When I was out there, if you was funny, some things can happen. You know, and most comedians, we know that women like to laugh. And so a lot of comedians would play to that. And, you know,
they'd be like, oh, you so funny. And all of a sudden the cuteness comes on because you're so funny, like to laugh.
Right.
So, you know, at this time here, I'm gonna turn it over to my mom and dad to ask some questions here. So, like I said, mom and dad, and plus to you from Hopkinsville.
What you know about that? What you know about that?
Don't let me start. Let me.
You saying that like you know something about that?
Oh, I know about Hopkinsville. Go ahead, mom and dad. Go ahead. What are your questions?
I'm scared of you. I'm scared of your mama question.
It was at Hopkinsville because my aunt and uncle lived in Madisonville.
Oh, okay. Then you know about Hoptown. I don't even have to say Hopkinsville. I can say Hoptown. You know about Hoptown then. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a small world.
It's a small
world. Definitely a small world. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And we live in a little city called Niles, Michigan.
Niles, Michigan. Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's a small town, 2.5 hours away from Detroit. It's not a suburb of Detroit.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask you, was it near Egypt, Michigan?
Heard of South Bend, Indiana, where Notre Dame is?
Yeah, South Bend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're 8 miles from South Bend.
We're 8 miles. We're just across.
Okay.
Yep. Little small town, but there's a thing. So you have any, now that we got acquainted with demographics here, you have any questions for my man, Devon Cherry here?
You know, now, you know, I came up during the era of Bill Cosby, of, you know, Red Skelton, you know, really clean comics. How did it change from clean to edgy? What happened?
I kind of stayed in myself, but I just started focusing more on church. It's like once I started getting booked more in churches, so
okay,
it became more like okay, God, you taking me somewhere that you know I wasn't trying to go, and still even to this day, sometimes if I straddle that fence and go do one of these clubs, God let me know that's not where I'm supposed to be. So,
well, I applaud you for being a clean comic.
Yeah,
there needs to be more of it because for me, it's hard to watch an up-to-date movie today because they'll always throw in something that is totally against my nature.
Right.
And even though the plot is good, even though the actors are good, it just ruins the whole movie.
Right. Well, it's just like me now. I'm trying to more. It's like my main set is a real churchy set, but I'm trying to get it more. Not so churchy, but just real. Because I'm one of them comics that somebody always telling me I need to write my life. But for me, it's kind of hard for me to write my life, which I don't see why. But it is. I just don't think my life is funny. But something that I might see is more funnier to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had a lot of people like, great promoters and stuff to tell me like, start writing about your life. So that's what I'm trying to do now because now I'm 50 years old. I had my first child at 47. So now I got kids jokes. I never had kids jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
So it took me 47 years to get kid jokes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but I mean, this is just so fascinating, man. And like I said, we have so much in common here and stuff. And the main thing is that Mom, do you have any other questions for Damon before I ask another question here?
I'm enjoying listening to you.
Yes.
Okay. And so, not only from a small town, Hopkinsville, people don't know where Hopkinsville is, a small town. I mean, you're not too far from the University of Kentucky, but tell us a little bit about Kentucky State. And I'm going to ask you some questions about how people can get in contact. But Kentucky State, what made you go to that college?
Man, to be honest with you, when I was getting ready to go when I graduated, I had the Marines in my living room. I was getting ready to go to the Marines because a bunch of my friends were just going to go up to the Marines at one time. And it's funny that you asked me this because I'm going to take you full circle on what I'm about to say. So there was a guy named Kim Goodlow. We had right before a couple of days before, we had a big old, like all the colleges was in the gym. And at that time, BET was all they showed. That's black when BET was really jumping. They showed all the black football games back in the day, and I wanted to go to Grambling so bad. I wanted to go to Grambling just because I saw it on TV, and I wanted to be a Q dog. As you can see, that changed. So only because I'm seeing all this on BET. So my mom looked at me and she said, "You sure you want to go to the Marines?" And it was like eight of my friends that everybody was going on this buddy thing. And I said, you know what, man, I think I'm going to go to school. So I met this guy named Kim Goodlow. And Kim Goodlow gave me all this information and he hooked me up with a tour. I went on a tour with 4 other people from that I graduated with. And I'm the only one that went to Kentucky State. And man, when I got there, it was Grambling in my state. It was Grambling in my state. I was hooked in the first dorm room we walked through. And the guy told us about the dorm and we even got to go to a party and see the Greek stepping and all that. I was like, okay, I don't have to go all the way to Grambling. I'm right here. I'm 3 hours away. And so that's how I ended up in Kentucky State. And then to take it full circle, this past homecoming, I actually thanked Kim Goodlow. I had the opportunity to thank him for being in my gym today because I told him I was about to get ready to go to the Marines. And
wow.
One of my best friends, he retired from the Marines and he done been in every conflict since 1990 when we graduated.
Oh my!
And so I can imagine really what his mental state is. We don't talk all the time, but I can really imagine what his mental state is. And I thank Kim Goodlow for that. And then another thing about it, Kim Goodlow is a Sigma. And took it all full circle. So once I got to Kentucky State, he looked out for me, took care of him. Then some people that stayed there in the street from me that went to high school with my mom, they was administrators at Kentucky State.
Oh,
so that's how I got all in through the whole. When I had my bad times on that 8-year trek, when I was in the National Guard and I wasn't going to class. I was just getting free National Guard money, just living on campus, and I was smoking weed and doing all type of crazy things. But those ladies kept me on track. And I honestly, I'm gonna tell you something, Todd, that a lot of people probably wouldn't tell you. If it wasn't for the internet really jumping in 1998. I probably never would have graduated college.
Get out of here. And it's funny because we both went to HBCUs. We're about the same age and stuff. And I'm just a little bit older than you. Just 1 year. Not that much. And we got so much in common and that you went there and stuff like that. I mean, but this trek, this life that you had, you've experienced so much of life and being a father and everything like that. I mean, it's amazing. And we'll get ready.
I'm learning at 50. all my friends got 3 and 4 grandkids, and
hey, that's all right, man. Rather late than never. Before we get off there, any questions you want to ask before I ask our audience how they get in touch with the Damon Cherry or have them at their event? Mom and Dad, you have any questions before I get to that one?
Can't think of any.
No,
I stumped Mom and Dad.
Yeah, you stumped them today, man. Usually that's a hard one to do, bro. Very good job.
Hot town, yeah,
man. Way to do it. So before we leave, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Man, I'm Damon M. Cherry on everything. My Instagram is Damon M. Cherry 41, but if you just put in Damon M. Cherry, I'm gonna pop up. And That's the best way to contact me. I'm redoing my website because, as you can see in the background, I started my first flavor of my wine.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy here in Columbus, Ohio that has a brewery, and he has a black-owned wine brewery. And so one day I was sitting there talking to him. Well, when we had our radio station up back before COVID, we had him over at the studio. He did a wine tasting over there. And so one day I was sitting around. I was like, man, I got all this merchandise on my table. I got T-shirts. Sometimes people don't want to buy a T-shirt. I got ties. I had a gang of ties because I'm doing Christian comedy. I'm trying to sell ties. I got these rings that got Bible verses on it. I'm trying to sell all this, and people wouldn't buy all this stuff. But I've been in the wine business for 4 months.
4 months.
I did 3 shows where I sold his wine, and I reordered while I'm there at the table.
Wow.
But I did have one pastor to try to challenge me, but I hit him back so hard that he had to leave me alone. But I would never sell my wine at a church.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's an event, if you have your event in like an event center or something like that, I will. But I told him, I was like, he's like, how you gonna sell wine at a Christian event? I was like, man, how many times is wine in the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
How many times did they drink wine? I mean, Jesus even turned water to wine. It's like, I'm not trying to get you drunk. I just, as a businessman, I found me a new venture, and it's really been working for me. So I'm redoing the website now. I'm trying to get the money factor on where people can order my wine. And as you can see in the back, my wine is called Moscato.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cherry and passion fruit infused Moscato. But since my name is Damon, it's not Moscato, it's Moscato.
Okay. Well, like I said, man, Damon, thank you so much for sharing that. Like I said, man, if people want to get in contact with you, be at their church event or whatever they do, man. And like I said, we want to make sure that we support you in your clean comedy and your journey here in life. And congratulations on your well, they're not a newborn. It's like 3 or 4 years old now. Yeah, talking to you and talking back at you. So I know this is very.
She talk like how man you talking right now, man. She can film you on the phone. I don't know what it is with these kids and these phones, man. Man.
It's just something, isn't it? Well, like I said, man, we want to thank you for coming out on our show today. And like I said, we want to make sure people come out there, support the Damon M. Cherry. Funny guy, a lot of life experiences there. Knows how to conduct himself in the different settings that he has there, folks. And like I said, so people go out there and support my man. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Damon. Until next time, we'll see you on Mom and Dad.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Love y'all, Mom and Dad.
Okay.